Hey, what's up YouTube? Lightsaber Samurai here, back again for another video, and I've got another video game versus on our hands today, taking a look at two of the most iconic fighting series of all time. Now, starting off with the Street Fighter series. When Street Fighter came out in the arcade, Street Fighter 2 to be exact, when it dropped in the arcades in the early 90s, it was a total game changer, no pun intended, and I don't think, unless you were alive at the time, you can really appreciate the impact that Street Fighter 2 had on the fighting game genre, on the arcade scene, and just in video games in general. Shortly after, in the years to follow, Mortal Kombat burst on the scene with its blood and its controversy, and throughout the years, most people tend to compare Street Fighter to Mortal Kombat when they're talking about their top fighting series of all time, but me personally, I usually would compare SNK's offering to Street Fighter more than Mortal Kombat, as I saw them as more similar in the same realm of fighting games, and that of course is the King of Fighters series. Now, in the 6th generation with the PlayStation 2, GameCube, Xbox era, both companies did something very interesting, stepping into 3D for the first time with the Street Fighter series, and then, well, not with the Street Fighter series, but the first time since the PlayStation with the Street Fighter series, and the first time since the original PlayStation with the King of Fighters series. So in this video, I wanted to compare two of my favorite fighting games of all time on the PlayStation 2, and that is Street Fighter EX3 versus King of Fighters Maximum Impact. Let's talk about it. Alright, so Street Fighter EX3 came out first, being the launch title on the PlayStation 2, so let's take a look at it first. I did cover this game not too long ago when I was going over the EX series, but I want to take another look at it here. In this game, it's a 2D fighting game like all the others in the series, but it also uses 3D polygons, and this was the last time they would do it until the next generation with Street Fighter 4. It boasts a cast of about 16 to 18 characters in it. About half you have at the start of the game, the other half you have to unlock. What was interesting about this game was the introduction of the Fighting Layer series of fighting games. So Fighting Layer EX was the fighting game by Arika, and they teamed up and added the Fighting Layer games to the Street Fighter games, and that's where you get the Street Fighter EX series. So in this game, you've got classics like Ryu and Ken and Chun-Li and Blanca, alongside the Fighting Layer games like Sharon and Volcano Rosso and Area and Jack and Skullomania. The game plays really well. It's a little bit slow and the graphics are a little bit chunky, but again, this was a launch title on the PlayStation, so I don't think they really understood how to really push the system yet. In this game, it plays well. All of the moves you expect are there, and it's got a lot of cool different modes. The dramatic battles are pretty cool. They brought those back, I want to say, from the Alpha series is where those first started, and you can go 1 versus 3 players and 1 versus 2 and 3-on-1 battles and 2-on-2 battles and the like, and you can fight them all simultaneously. You and your comrades, like, as you go through the game, you'll beat characters and you can add them to your team, or you can reject them, and you'll build a team of about 3 or 4 by the time you get to the end of the arcade mode. And once it gets to that point, in some of the battles, it'll be all 4 of your characters versus 1 character at a time, and so that's pretty cool. And sometimes it'll be vice versa, and they'll have smaller life bars, and you should be able to deal with it at that. I mentioned the ending screen, the ending credits, the last time I went over this game, and I want to shout out that again because it's freaking fantastic that as the credits roll, you still get to beat up waves and waves of enemies, including the one that continues to get larger every time you destroy him. So I mean, that I haven't seen that in any game like like it before it or since. So I mean, just really kudos to that. I love little touches like that. The game, with the addition of the EX characters, has a sense of wackiness that you don't usually get to see with Street Fighter games. So I found the EX series overall to be refreshing in the sense that they added those cool characters in there. So I mean, over the years, I continue to go back to this, even though it's not the best looking game, even though it's not the most polished game. I always go back to it because it's just simply a lot of fun. So that's a quick look at Street Fighter EX3. Now let's take a look at King of Fighters Maximum Impact. Alright, so a few years later in 2004, we got King of Fighters Maximum Impact on the PlayStation 2. There's also an enhanced version of this that dropped on the original Xbox a year later, but in this game, it's brought out by SNK Playmore, and you've got 19 characters in this. You've got 14 of them from the previous King of Fighter games, and then you've got 5 all new. This game is fantastic. It looks pretty good. You know, being a kind of a mid-era PlayStation 2 game. The graphics on it are fantastic. They're definitely better than what you'll see in Street Fighter EX3. I think the game itself also moves faster and runs at a smoother frame rate than you'll see in the EX series of games as well. It's standard King of Fighters. The roster is pretty much all there, although I think they got rid of Benamaru, which is one of my favorites, and so he's not in there unless I unlocked him, but I haven't unlocked him yet. So if they did that, shame on you for that. But the game, I mean, you've got your story mode, you've got an arcade mode and a practice mode, and just basically standard fare what you would see in the game. The King of Fighters series is more combo oriented than the Street Fighter games. You can pull off some kind of 2 and 3 hit combos in Street Fighters, but you can chain them much better in the King of Fighters series. They also have that kind of dash roll that you can use to evade enemy attacks, where you can kind of roll in them or roll away, depending on which way you need to dodge out of the way. This is a very polished game. I enjoyed this game a lot. That's pretty much all I got to say about it. And this game is definitely one. Both games are games you can find pretty cheap nowadays. You can find either one of them for $20 or less, and I suggest grabbing them if you are fighting aficionados. There's a lot to like about both games and a lot of content to keep you coming back for more. In conclusion, if I had to choose which one would I pick Street Fighter EX3 or would I pick King of Fighters Maximum Impact? This one is extremely tough. Maximum Impact, in my opinion, is the better looking game. I think it's also the better playing game, but it's just something about the characters from Street Fighter EX3. Like, I love that game a lot. Also, I think I'm looking at it through my nostalgia blinders, as I bought that game back in like 02, 03, whereas Maximum Impact I didn't buy until years later. It was one I seen in the magazines and one I always wanted to play. Never got around to it till I started collecting recently. Bought it about a year ago. So the nostalgia factor rather, I think is impeding my judgment. I will say that out of the two, Maximum Impact is the better game. It's the better playing game, it's the better fighting game, it's the better looking game overall. Me personally, I think I like the EX3 better, but I think that's just because of my history and my nostalgia for the game. So take that with a grain of salt. If I had to choose for you guys, for the masses, Maximum Impact is the better game. So I hope that wasn't too muddy. If I could give them a tie, I would, but in my Versus series, I don't want to give any games a tie. So if I had to choose a definitive winner, it's going to be King of Fighters Maximum Impact. So there you go. Alright guys, so that was it. Just a little quick video just showcasing these two fighting games, but let's talk about it in the comment section below. Questions, comments, concerns, threats. If you guys played these games, what do you think about them? What's the better game? Do you agree with me that Maximum Impact is the better game, or do you feel like the uniqueness of Street Fighter EX3 was enough to pull it out? Just let me know down in the comment section below and we can talk about it. If you like this content, go ahead and give me a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. You'll be glad you did. I do believe that's all I got for you. Lightsaber Samurai out. Peace.